All right, thank you everyone for joining us today for the MyStar Learning Series about how teaching MyStar can be part of earning a highly effective rating from your administrator. We're so glad you could be here today, and today we're going to start out with a quick breakout room to meet some of your friends that are here. And it's just going to be a really short one. We'll have a little more time with your small group later, but we wanted to start off with a lighthearted question. If you could be on a reality TV show, which one and why? So maybe your classroom feels a little bit like a reality TV show right now. Hopefully not, but maybe you can pick one that you would prefer to be on that's maybe joyful. All right, welcome back, everyone. I hope you were able to chat with your small group and make some new friends. So we're gonna get rolling today because we got lots of good stuff on the menu. Just a quick kind of rundown of what we're gonna cover today is first, we're going to talk about the benefits of a highly effective rating. Why are we here today? What's the goals here? And talk a little bit about setting student growth goals and MyStar resources that can help you out with that. And then we'll dig into some information about the Marzano and MyStar West Bloomfield School District experience and how Amy has been tackling that for us. And then we'll move on to back in our small groups, unpacking some highly effective attributes of these evaluation models and how MyStar products and resources can help with that. And then highlight some professional leadership, growth, and mentoring opportunities that MyStar offers to help satisfy some of those evaluation model criteria. And finally, we'll go back into kind of open breakout rooms with the presenters. So if you have questions for them on anything that they presented on today, you can have that opportunity to share. Today we have a great lineup of presenters. We've got Amy Quinn and Andrea Williams, who are with the West Bloomfield School District. We also have Monica Harvey with us today from the Rochester Community Schools. And Chris Gear is our professional learning coordinator for MyStar, so she's here as well to share some information. My name is Lindsay Watch. I'll be the facilitator of the session today. So if you have any technical questions, please feel free to private chat me and I can help you out as best I can. But without further ado, I'd like to pass it along to Chris and she'll kick it off for us. Let's see, I think you're muted, Chris.
All right. I'm muted. Hi, everyone. My name is Chris Gear. I am working for MyStar now. I was a middle school science teacher for 25 years. I retired last year in December. Working on evaluations was one of those parts of my life for 25 years, some years better than others. But what I learned over time was that if you are proactive about your evaluation and advocate for yourself with your administrator, a lot of times you can get that win-win situation where you get the evaluation that you think you deserve. So MyStar can certainly help us get to that point. We have lots of resources and the structure of the curriculum and things like that lend itself well to reaching that HE evaluation. So this is right from the MDE's website, and I love this quote: teachers should advocate for aspects of their teaching that represent excellent instruction and proactively engage in feedback discussions with administrators. So MDE is saying, hey, be proactive, advocate for yourself. Okay, go ahead, Lindsay, thanks. And so why would you want to do this? And not everybody's up for it every year, but if you do want to be highly effective, there are a few carrots that are built into Michigan legislation. If you're highly effective 3 years in a row, you may move to biennial, so every 2-year evaluation. So you get to skip a year. That's a little bit of a carrot. If you have 3 highly effectives in the last 5 years, you can apply for an advanced professional educator certification with MDE. Don't know what it gets you other than makes you feel good about yourself, but so that's nice. I know everybody's in a huge labor shortage right now, but when and if there are layoffs, the districts are not allowed to lay off based on old school seniority time, on the job, but they can lay off according to your evaluation. And so if you're in HE territory, you're pretty safe from that. And it gives you the recognition that you deserve. And so if we're working hard, we should be, our administrators should acknowledge that. Go ahead, Lindsay. And a lot of times they're just, they can't get to all of it. They can't think about all of it. And so this is all about how do you help them understand what you're doing. So quick background on the teacher evaluation legislation. Teacher evaluations changed in 2011 initially, when a lot of other education legislation that was not very good for teachers went through. They were updated a little bit in 2015. And there are two pieces to the teacher evaluation process according to the state legislation. The first piece is this student growth assessment data. And for a long time that was lowered to 25%. And then last year they gave up on keeping it at 25% and let it revert back to the original language, which is 40%, which is kind of ridiculous. But again, it becomes, what do you have control over and how do you make that work for you? And we'll talk a bit about that a little bit. And then the second piece is probably a little more productive, and that is using a nationally recognized evaluation tool. And MDE went through all the available products and chose 5 that districts could choose from that all seem to be pretty decent at helping teachers think about their practice. So the student growth and assessment is really just kind of punitive, but let's talk about how you might do that, set those growth goals wisely. So you probably are able to set your own growth goals. I hope so. In my district, we were able to. The state MDE documentation refers to this National Comprehensive Center for Teacher Quality document, which says that the assessments that you're looking at for your evaluation should be rigorous, should be between 2 points in time, and should be comparable across classrooms. And so, go ahead, Lindsay. It just so happens that MyStar assessments are rigorous between 2 points in time. If you do pre-post tests for the units, you can choose to look at SEPs or CCCs over multiple lessons or units, so over time. And if your district has adopted MyStar, we have lots of assessment products that you can use, and they would be comparable across classrooms. So you don't have to make up your own stuff. And that's one of the requirements, is that, kind of those common assessment ideas. So go ahead, Lindsay. Thanks. So there are a number of assessment products or opportunities in MyStar. There are the unit tests, and we call them pre-post tests because you're entirely invited to give them before and after the unit if you want to look for student growth. If you're not looking for student growth, there's no reason to give that test ahead of time. But if you are, that's something that you can do. There are embedded assessments, at least one in each unit. Every lesson has a check your progress lesson phase. That's an assessment product. And then those unit challenge student products at the end of each lesson are also good assessment pieces. Okay, Lindsay. So that can sound overwhelming. And so what you might want to consider, if your administrator and your district guidelines will go along with this, is to select student learning objectives. And so maybe instead of saying, what do kids learn about cells from point A to point B, think about the SEPs or the CCCs. How have kids' modeling skills improved over time? How has their ability to construct a scientific explanation improved over time? And those are things that you can do within a unit. You can do it within parts of a unit. You can do it over several units. And so you've got that 2 points in time piece. MyStar also provides some holistic scales if you want to think about grading things holistically, and we'll talk about that in a second. One of the nice things about holistic scales, I think, is that the more control you have as a teacher over those scores, the more likely you are to be happy with what goes into your evaluation. Choose things that you have a lot of control over. And it's always good if you have to explain it to your administrator, they're going to trust your judgment. You can also narrow down your focus groups. If your district allows it, instead of you have 160 or 170 kids, maybe you don't have to grade all the pre-post tests. Maybe you select a subgroup, just one class period. So, just 32 kids, or a subset across class periods. Maybe you're going to look at some at-risk kids. Maybe you're going to look at your special ed kids or your kids who have 504s or some other at-risk category, or look at girls, because we want to encourage girls to pursue science careers, or so think about being able to narrow that to make all of this, all of these assessments manageable. Okay. One of the new products that MyStar is starting to include in the unit assessments, the pre-post tests, is this assessment overview table. And if you do choose to focus on just one SEP or one CCC or even a DCI, you may want to give that whole pre-post test, but the data that you use for your evaluation, you might just choose one assessment item. If you're just assessing models and you're using Unit 6.1, this happens to be from Unit 6.1, which just had a new assessment published a couple weeks ago. It's revised from the past one. So maybe you're just going to look at the assessment item number 2, which is going to be a scenario with 3 or 4 questions, just that one cluster. That makes your life a lot easier. Okay, go ahead, Lindsay. When you're thinking about scoring the assessments, of course, we always have the teacher version with exemplar answers, but we also have an assessment scoring teacher guide. That's a kind of a one-pager on how to use MyStar assessments and how to use our scoring tools. And then our teaching resources, the pedagogy and strategies page also has a whole chunk of stuff that's all about assessment. Go ahead, Lindsay. Thanks. So when we talk about holistic grading, this is a really nice way to present data to your administrator. You can think about these levels, and these are provided in every embedded assessment in the MyStar curriculum. You could apply them to to the pre-post tests, especially if you're just doing one cluster. But we have, there's also a level 1, but we have level 2, 3, and 4. One note that Barb, who is our assessment expert, always makes when she does PD, is that Marzano levels oftentimes will have 4 is above grade level, and just be aware that in MyStar, the holistic grade scales, level 4 is grade level, because the MyStar tests are rigorous enough that the assessment team thought that if you can manage everything you're supposed to do at grade level, you have mastery and you're really performing at a high level. Okay, I think we have one more, Lindsay. Thank you. So lots of resources for assessments for setting those student growth goals. We have this pedagogy and strategies page, and there's a whole section just on assessment with lots of links. You can find that in the teacher resources drop-down box on our new MyStar dashboard, which hopefully you've seen. It's going to become your default dashboard next week, so take a look at that. And then we will run the assessment series with Barb McIntyre next winter, starting in February, and she does 3 2-hour sessions. You can attend one or all of them, and she really digs into how to use MyStar assessment products in a way that's productive. All right.
Thanks, Chris, for sharing those assessment resources. Hopefully people get a chance to check out that new dashboard that's rolling out. And we will move on. Amy Quinn is here to talk about Marzano and the MyStar West Bloomfield School District Experience. Amy, would you like to take it away?
Sure. Thank you, Lindsay. Thank you so much for having me today also. My name is Amy Quinn. I am the Math and Science Coordinator. I think my new role is actually a consultant for West Bloomfield Schools. I'm also an NGSX facilitator, and then of course a MyStar PLF. But prior to this job, I was a science coach, and I really focused in more elementary. And so now I've expanded more K-12. So you can go to the next one. I'm here today to really just kind of share our experience and kind of talk it through like a district lens, but also a teacher lens. And, our journey continues with MyStar now with Marzano. And so I just wanted to back up a little bit just to kind of share a little bit of West Bloomfield's journey. Year one, we really noticed like, okay, we're transitioning to the next generation standards, science standards. We're really understanding cross-cutting concepts and science engineering practices through MyStar. Year two was a little more with the culture of the room was changing, of the classroom, how we're presenting, anchoring phenomena, bubble map, different things like that. But also as a PLC, we were coming together because in West Bloomfield now with PLCs, we were all doing, MyStar as a resource and was able to really move us forward. So now we're into, year three, and we just got back. We were in cohorts last year. So now, back to school in this time, and we just started Marzano as a district. So we are like 6 weeks into Marzano. So I've already made some like realizations and ahas that I want to share in terms of Marzano. And one of the most interesting things is the next bullet I have is, so where's Amy Quinn? She's not in the middle school PLC. Andrea is our facilitator. So yes, that is a lot of the reason. But when I really started to dig deeper, I realized in my role, I'm K-12 math and science. Everybody needed me intensely, except for middle school science. And when I started thinking about that, I realized a lot of it is because of the MyStar resource. And when you first look at the evaluation, when you look at Marzano, for example, but any evaluation, doesn't have to be Marzano, it starts with having teacher background and standards, and that's a strength. And so it's really realizing that, you've got to spend that time there and have this resource and make sure your PLC spends time there, because it's going to make everything go a lot smoother. So that was a big district kind of aha moment that we realized. And we can go on to the next slide. Thank you. So if you could keep these reflection questions in mind as I continue, but then on to the rest of our presentation today in our breakout rooms. And it's really thinking about how is my PLC or department using the tools and resources in MyStar for planning and unpacking. Also be thinking about going back to what Chris said from MDE about really being that advocate. What am I communicating with my building principal or evaluator about what's going on in my classroom while using MyStar as a resource? One kind of small change we made that we thought as a district, I can't believe we weren't doing this more often, was having our principals more active in PLCs to be like specific who's supporting who. So then they're hearing that talk in PLCs. When it comes to evaluation, they understand a little more of that background. And it just was a simple schedule. We kind of needed to, talk and make, but I think it's gonna make a big difference. But then the next thing to be kind of reflecting on is thinking about is, after this presentation today and after the breakout rooms, what's a goal you have for yourself or even your PLC or your department or your district? All right, moving on to the next one. So again, I'm going to talk about Marzano, but it's any evaluation system that starts with really just good planning. And I'm going to share a little bit about what West Bloomfield's done with unpacking standards and really looking at standards-based planning. So it's really starting with the standards. Unpacking means not only knowing how to find them, but also understanding them. And I think that's the big piece that we have to make sure we spend that time understanding and unpacking. So then as we're going through the lessons, we really understand the why and the what and the how students should be learning science. Also important about aligning assessments. And I know we had a focus on that earlier. It fits in so perfect. Something MyStar definitely has. And then the level of rigor. So for Marzano, it's these taxonomy levels. But that's something that we're kind of making these aha moments. Because when you really look at the standards, you have to think, okay, are we just describing something or are we actually comparing it? Or are they using a model for explanation? What exactly does that mean? But all this work, early on will help you then with your learning targets or your scales or your performance scales or continuing with the unit. Now, on the next slide, I have an example from our middle school PLC. This is an example of their unpacking. And, oh, sorry, this isn't it yet. This is actually what they helped use in for MyStar tools and resources in their unpacking. And I know we're going to talk about it more later also, and I know everybody on here is very, very familiar. But at times, sometimes as teachers, we jump into the lesson. We want to see what that anchoring video is, or we want to, just kind of go and see what we're going to need. And so I just wanted to really encourage everybody on this call today to remind yourself and your PLCs, there are so many resources and tools that can help you. They're embedded, of course, as we know, in the lessons, which is so helpful, but also really looking at the NGSS connections is going to be key. That right there is going to help you with your unpacking and your understanding. So I wanted to highlight that. And then the second one that I wanted to really highlight for the unpacking part is really looking at the teacher background. And that teacher background helps us as teachers to know, okay, what was happening prior in elementary? Where are we going? Understanding, like, do I know what a system is? Okay, maybe not, but there's a link to a video that can explain what that system is. So those are really two of many that are going to help you. Right, we can go on to the next one, which is the unpacking example. So here, this is an example of middle school taking, they're actually working in 7.1. It's the beta test. It's off the grid gaming version 2 of 7.1. And when you unpack a standard, and there's different ways to do it. And there's really no wrong or right, honestly. It's really about looking at nouns, looking at verbs, so you understand, like for nouns, what do we want students to know and understand? And then looking at verbs, really looking at what do we want students to be able to do, like the skills. And the verbs really kind of go along with cognitive complexity. But then it's having that discussion. So, like I said, there's many ways to unpack, and I just wanted to share our example here. We did highlights, and underlining, and then we had PLCs just bullet some of their discussion points. But it's really going to help us then, move faster and further along. All right, we can go on to the next one. So when you start doing that unpacking and you really are looking at those verbs, it's really going to help you think, oh, this is the Marzano taxonomy level, but I know levels, but I know that you might have one for your evaluation model. But it's really looking at, again, what are students really expected to be doing? And what's that high level to make sure that you accomplish that. All right, I think we can move right into our next one. Thank you. And I look forward to anybody who comes to the Marzano breakout room because, as I mentioned, I'm learning alongside of everyone. So can't wait to talk more. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. That was great. It's great to hear that perspective from your district. We appreciate you being here. And so now we'll move on to Andrea and Monica are going to share their activity of unpacking highly effective attributes to help us identify some MyStar resources maybe that can help check those boxes.
All right, well, I'm Andrea Williams and I teach at West Bloomfield School District with Amy Quinn. I teach this year all 6th grade science, and we've been doing MyStar here for 3 official years. I did it as a kind of on my own pilot for 2 years before that. And Monica.
And hi, I'm the partner in crime. I'm Monica Harvey, formerly Werwitz. So the name you couldn't say, that was me. And now I'm Harvey. So it's much easier and more vowels. I'm from Rochester Schools and I teach 3 classes of 7th grade science. And then I'm the middle school science coordinator for the district for the rest of my day. And we've been using MyStar for quite a long time. We use Danielson. So I'm going to be focusing kind of on products for the Danielson evaluation model. But it really, as Amy said, it really doesn't matter what model you're using. MyStar supports the highly effective rating in any of them. And my district's also looking or doing more work with MPDL, which is the deeper learning. And MyStar definitely supports all aspects of deeper learning. So if there's any of you that are using the deeper learning pedagogies and you want to talk about that too, I'm your girl. So we can talk about that as well.
Yeah, so we're going to put you to work on a task. So Monica and I, as you heard from Amy, my district is using Marzano, and we're just getting started with it this year. But Monica said, as she mentioned, she's using Danielson, and we noticed when we looked at the participants that some people are using, is it 5D? Is that what it's called, the 5D model? So we have 3 samples. Yes. So we have 3 samples of the kind of like the rubric for what teachers have to do to achieve highly effective marks in some different areas. One from each of those 3 evaluation tools. And so what we're going to ask you to do, you're going to go into a breakout room, and we're going to ask you to look for 4 different resources in MyStar that provide guidance for improving your use of instructional strategies that are listed on those evaluations tools, or if you might move you forward or move you towards becoming highly effective. Or you could find 4 resources in MyStar that would elicit artifacts, because in Danielson, you have to collect artifacts to show that you do these things. Where could I look in MyStar for resources that would help me get those artifacts produced by my students, so that I can use those to demonstrate my highly effective teaching? Lindsay, would you mind putting up the Jamboard on your screen for a moment so that we can sample? And Monica, if I missed something, just butt in. Please.
No, you're good.
So when you go into your breakout room, the first slide in the Jamboard that you'll access through the slides, the Google Slides, gives an example of what that task is asking you to do. So this is from Marzano, and this is one of the categories that evaluators are looking for when they come into our classrooms. And this is out of the domain for standards-based instruction. So when they're scoring us on standards-based instruction, one of the things they look for in our classroom is our ability to use questions for to help students elaborate on content. Many, as you know from using MyStar, many of the activities in the share phase require students to discuss and dialogue about things that they are investigating in the Uncover. And those lessons are really a good place where teachers can practice these skills of using questions to help students elaborate on content. So in this example, what I did was I looked at all of the things that it says that the teacher should be doing to demonstrate a highly effective rating in this category, and things that would provide evidence from the students. So in Marzano, this is what evaluators are looking for the teacher to be doing and looking for students to be doing. And you can see that there are 4 different things highlighted, and they have different corresponding color of Post-it notes. Thank you, sticky notes. And on those, I have listed down if I can look in MyStar in these resources to find assistance in either getting better at this look for, or in finding a place where students are going to produce an artifact that would be evidence for that. Can I clarify anyone? Or maybe Monica,
if your Jamboard is looking for like artifacts, it would be similar to what Andrea did on this one, but you would maybe list the specific artifact that you could make a copy of and then upload as evidence that you're able to do that. And of course, we're focusing in the highly effective category, even though the rubric shows you all of them. So I don't think anyone that's here is aiming for minimally effective. So I'm just putting it out there. And then tabs that are helpful to have open. your MyStar dashboard, definitely, and the Jamboard so that you can maybe toggle between the two and work together with the group that you're in the breakout room with. And then I think, Andrea, we numbered the corresponding, the slides with a number.
Yes.
So if you're in breakout room 1, you're going to slide 1, the one with the 1 on it. So it's actually slide 2 in the deck. And then there's a 3, or there's a group 2. There you go. And then there's a group 3. So your numbers should match your breakout room. I think that gets at all the questions. Andrea, did I miss anything?
I think we got it. Unless anyone needs a further clarification, we can send people to breakout room.
Looks like everybody's coming back to the main room. Great. Well, welcome back, everyone. I hope you found your breakout rooms conversations helpful and engaging. Andrea and Monica, I'll turn it back to you both.
Okay, so for this one, you're going to need to have the Google slide deck open. So you're seeing Lindsay's on the screen. In a lot of the workshops that Andrea and I have done over the past couple of years, we do try to make sure that you walk away with something. And so this is a way you could really use this routine for anything. But if you're looking on the screen here, this is observations, connections, first thoughts, and new wonderings. So as your team, and you're going to fill this out as a team, do they need to go in a breakout room for this? Probably not. But the first one that is available for you to type on will belong to group 1 or breakout room 1. There's a second one and a third one. So you're going to find the one that matches your breakout room. And we just want you to toggle through the Jamboard slides and just kind of list some observations that you have between the 3. What connections can you make between the 3? What are some first thoughts that you have? And then what new wonderings do you have after looking at all 3 of these? Andrea, what did I miss?
Nothing. You did a beautiful job.
Oh, yay. Okay.
I have a question. How do you write on those?
They have to put a text box in, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, there's tools at the top. Text box is one of them. You can use symbols, but text box is probably the easiest one. I think it's probably going to be helpful if they go back in their breakout rooms just because they can talk and figure out who's going to be doing the typing. If you want to have different people typing in different boxes, but you are going to be looking through the Jamboard slides that other teams have worked on. And again, you're making observations. What do you see? What connections can you make between the 3? First thoughts and new wonderings. And so you're going to be working on a slide with your breakout team.
Any questions for our presenters before I open the rooms again? All right, I will open. All right, welcome back, everyone, from your breakout rooms. Looks like everyone's here with us. Welcome back. Looks like we got a couple people just finishing up some thoughts, but Andrea and Monica, if you would like to take away the share out.
Go ahead, Andrea.
So I'm not sure with our time the best way to do this. I think originally we thought we'd have someone from each team kind of share out what they had observed and connected with between the boards and et cetera. Do we still feel like we have time for that? Okay. So can we start with team 1? Would somebody be willing to just kind of summarize for us your observations and connections and et cetera?
Uh-oh,
they didn't nominate a presenter. We maybe have to pick on
Practicing
someone.
wait time.
Yes. I saw
I can
Dawn.
jump in here.
There she is. I was just going to say, I saw Dawn unmute herself.
Yeah, I didn't realize I
Thank-
was muted. We had noticed NGSS wasn't mentioned in all 3 places, all 3 of the slides. I'm sure it was intended though, because we kind of talk through it. The connections, everyone noticed that the portion is very important. First thoughts, I see here very similar things are needed in all. I felt that MyStar makes it so easy for evaluations to pull things from, to just fit all the criteria. And then I was wondering, I was listening to people talk thinking, we use Danielson and I don't have to provide all these materials.
Like
So
the
I was
artifact.
curious why, but I'm not going to poke the bear. So
Yeah.
Oh, no,
think
don't.
We also talked about some administrators that solely rely on teachers to upload proof. They don't get down to the classroom. So MyStar does provide an opportunity to upload a lot of proof, like way more proof than they probably want. But if they're not going to get into your room and see this in action more than just the dog and pony show, there's a lot that you can put in. So if you have the conversation about being highly effective, you have a lot of evidence that you could put.
And in addition to that, I don't know if it was this team or if it was another team that mentioned the bubble map as one of the resource or one of the pieces of MyStar that can be used as evidence. Specifically with Danielson, I remember our district was Danielson before we were Marzano, and to get into that highly effective category in everything had to be a component of students are involved in the driving it or in decision making or in something. That was the way you got into the highly effective category, was having student voice and choice and student buy-in and student contributions. And so that bubble map is really a big way to show this whole unit is student driven, because we start with kids' questions based on a unit challenge that's presented to them. And then we, together decide which do we need to answer and where do we go. So of course, we're really steering the bus, but that's the way student driven is done. We let them have that feeling of my questions are important, my questions are valid, and we're answering, we're doing this activity right now because I said we needed to answer this question. But the beauty of MyStar is that it's all already pre-planned, but yeah. So that's an important thing to point out with administrators, especially in Danielson. Any comments, feedback, or anything for our team one folks? Anything that you heard them say that sparked some ideas, any other connections or anything? I'm not sure if our team 2 folks are still with us. We might have lost them. So maybe we'll go to team 3 and have team 3 share it. And then if team 2 folks are still here, they can jump in, but I think we lost them.
We have a brave soul from room 3 that would like to share.
I can share for us for group 3. Some things that we were noticing, some of our observations that I know I was kind of asking a question, a refresher for the connections document. And we saw someone mention that. And we reminded ourselves that it can be used to view performance expectations, as well as like the cross-cutting concepts and science and engineering practices. We also noticed that some groups, group 2 actually was talking about the summary table and how it can be used to review content and then like take what we know and rephrase those ideas. We also noticed at first that group 1 and group 3 noticed how in the uncover or share phase, students are refining and or changing ideas or misconceptions.
Beautiful. Any feedback, thoughts, anything from any of the other teams that the connections from team 3 brought up? I think that just from both teams that were able to share, it's clear that it doesn't really matter what your evaluation tool is that's being used. MyStar has resources and built within the lessons pieces that are just good teaching and help push us towards that highly effective rating. And it's just a matter in some cases of pulling those out and highlighting them for our evaluators so that they make sure that they see them.
Yeah. And then
Um,
hopefully you can use this tool as well for any gallery walk of any type, looking at those student products. So this is a twofer.
Jessica, did you have something?
I was just going to say that I know in our discussion as well, even just looking at the document that was in our Jamboard, we were kind of questioning like, when might we use this? When might this come up? And Amy was in our group and was pointing out that this, yeah, might be something that you might include in your evaluation. And I feel like that's a little different than what has been expected of me right now, but I feel like maybe I don't mind pushing the envelope because I would love all of us to rise to maybe some higher standards. And I feel like that's maybe something I would want to discuss with my administrator. Why aren't we requiring our teachers to maybe show or prove that they're doing these things? Because that would make me wonder, are maybe some of us not, and we're just possibly getting a highly effective rating while not doing some of these things?
Yeah,
Agreed.
good point. Yep.
I had this 6 or 7 years ago, I had a new principal who came in and observed me teach and came back and said, well, you're really effective. And I was like, what? You don't know me. You don't know what I do. And I got a little cranky. And I ended up creating a binder. I went through Danielson. I printed every domain and I bulleted all the things that I did teaching MyStar that were highly effective for each one of those domains and provided artifacts and stuff and put it on her desk. And she was like, okay, you're highly effective. Yeah, sometimes you have to advocate for yourself. You have to point out to them, here's what I'm doing. But if you're teaching MyStar with fidelity, you're going to hit all kinds of highly effective stuff. And if they're asking for proof of, what standards are you using? Are you using the most recent standards? Are you using the best pedagogy and the most, research supported teaching methods and stuff? Yes, we are. So anyway, sometimes you have to be proactive, but it can happen. All right, we're running out of time, Lindsay. How about we?
That's right.
I'm gonna zip through this part real quick.
Sounds good.
So in each of these evaluation products, there's a domain or a section on professional leadership and growth and mentoring and things like that. So besides what you're doing in the classroom, what are you doing in your teacher community and with your parents and things like that? And so Danielson has this domain 4C, has to do with teachers engaging families. Go ahead, Lindsay. I'm going to flip through this. Marzano has a similar thing. Teachers is engaging families. And then Pivot 5D has, teacher is engaging and communicating with families. And also teachers are communicating with families specifics about the assessments. And so in MyStar, we have a whole selection of different products, pieces, bits, supports that you can use. And we actually did a whole learning series on this a couple months ago on how to talk to your parents and your stakeholders and show them why MyStar might be a little hard for your kids, but it's going to be really good for them. So there are lots of MyStar resources. If you want to prove that you're doing this engagement and communication with parents, we can help you get there. I mean, you might actually have to do the communication, but there's lots of supports in our MyStar teacher library to help you do that. Okay, go ahead, Lindsay. And for the Pivot 5D piece, which is good for everybody anyway, if you want to communicate specifically about assessments, Barb McIntyre did a whole 2-hour session on how to explain three-dimensional assessments to parents and stakeholders, why it's good for their kids and how they can help their kids. And so the slides for that presentation last spring is linked here. And she's going to repeat this session again next year in April, and there'll be a sign up on the dashboard. So there's that. Go ahead, Lindsay. I'm flying through this. And then this is the professional community. Are you looking for leadership? Are you providing leadership? Those kinds of things that make you highly effective. So this is the Danielson piece that talks about leadership and relationships with colleagues. Are you initiating things? Marzano asks you to seek mentorship and provide mentorship. And then the pivot 5D also, is the teacher looking for opportunities for leadership. And so in MyStar, obviously we have opportunities for seeking mentorship, like all of our phase 2 and learning series opportunities, or you may be working with your local PLF or providing it. If you are a PLF, you're hitting all of this leadership stuff automatically. If you become a PLF or a coach, you would hit a lot of that stuff automatically. And even if you're not a PLF or a coach, if you take the initiative to maybe direct your colleagues to MyStar resources to have conversations with them about their teaching, MyStar has lots and lots of stuff in the teacher library that would allow you to have those conversations. Do a presentation at a PD within your district, do a presentation at MSDA, those kinds of things. So I was going to have you guys post things, ideas, but we are running short on time. So we'll slide by that, Lindsay, and I'm going to let you take over.
Thank you, Chris. That was a nice flyby of those relevant components. If while I'm talking, you have any thoughts you would like to put in those sticky notes, participants, please feel free. I just have a couple bookkeeping things that I'm going to do really quick, and then we'll get to our final breakout room where you can talk with our presenters. We do have one more learning series coming up this fall here on November 3rd. It is the topic is text-based inquiry in middle school science. And this session will be relevant and open to all teachers, not just those that are MyStar subscribers. So please share with your teacher friends and colleagues, maybe outside of MyStar. If you are a MyStar teacher, you can sign up on the new MyStar dashboard, or you can go back to the Events for Educators page, that public page that you've been signing up for these sessions for before. And that could be the link you share with any non-MyStar teachers as well. And then we are looking at announcing our winter spring 2022 session soon. So if you have any ideas, please share them with us in the feedback survey. We have a new Unit 6.6 enhanced unit coming out. So if you're teaching 6th grade and you might want to look for a new and improved unit challenge for the invasive species unit, please check it out. It will be live for preview on November 1, and then we will be running the beta test starting in January. So between January 3 and June 10, if you teach the enhanced unit 6.6, you can be a part of the beta test. So keep an eye out for more information about that unit coming out on November 1 for preview. And then if you are working with the Marzano evaluation model and would like to work with Amy to build out your resources, if you could share your contact information on this slide so she can reach out to you and make a working group to combine our powers. So please go ahead and fill that out if you're interested. And thank you so much for being here, everyone, today. And I want to thank our presenters as well. We really appreciate the information you shared with us today and for taking the time to be here.